My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 24 years old, and I live in Chicago. People often say a father will always protect his child. I believed that too. But one day, my dad looked into my eyes and chose someone else. He chose his new wife over me. That day changed my life forever. When I was a little girl, my dad was my hero. Every Saturday morning, he made pancakes for us. He always burned the first one. Then he laughed and said, "The first pancake is always for the trash." I laughed every time. My mom smiled as she watched us from the kitchen table. We were not a rich family, but we were happy. Dad never missed my school plays. He cheered at every soccer game. Before every test, he hugged me and said, "Claire, you are stronger than you think." Those words stayed in my heart. Then everything changed. I was 14 when my mom became sick. At first, she said it was only stress, but the doctors found something much worse: cancer. For 2 years, our lives became hospitals, medicine, and long nights. Dad never left Mom's side. Neither did I. One cold November morning, Mom held my hand. She smiled, even though she looked very weak. "Take care of your dad," she whispered. "I will," I cried. "I love you." "I love you too, Mom." Those were the last words she ever spoke to me. After her funeral, our house became very quiet. Dad stopped making pancakes. He stopped laughing. Sometimes I heard him crying late at night. I wanted to help him, but I was only 16, so I cleaned the house, cooked simple meals, and studied hard. I thought if I became a good daughter, Dad would feel less lonely. For a while, it was just the two of us. We watched old movies together. We visited Mom's favorite park every month. Sometimes we cried together. Sometimes we sat in silence. Even silence felt warm because we still had each other. One evening, almost 2 years after Mom died, Dad came home smiling. It was the first real smile I had seen in a long time. "Claire," he said, "I met someone." I looked up from my homework. "Oh?" "Her name is Vanessa." I forced a smile. "I'm happy for you, Dad." And I really wanted to be. No one should stay lonely forever. A few weeks later, I met Vanessa. She was beautiful. She wore expensive clothes and bright red lipstick. She brought me a small gift. "I hope we can be friends," she said with a sweet smile. She seemed kind. I wanted to believe she was. Dad looked happier than he had in years. Seeing him smile made me smile too. 6 months later, they got married. Dad asked if I was okay with it. I said yes. Maybe I said yes too quickly. Maybe I was afraid to tell him that I still missed Mom every single day. After the wedding, Vanessa moved into our house. At first, everything seemed normal. She cooked fancy dinners. She decorated every room. She even bought me new clothes for school. Dad kept saying, "Isn't Vanessa wonderful?" I nodded. Yes. But little things started changing. Mom's photos slowly disappeared from the living room. Vanessa said the house needed a fresh start. Dad agreed. Then Mom's favorite flowers disappeared from the garden. Then her old piano was sold because Vanessa wanted more space. Every time something from Mom disappeared, a small piece of my heart disappeared too. One evening, I carried Mom's old photo album downstairs. I wanted to show Dad some pictures from our family vacation years ago. Before I could open it, Vanessa looked at me. "Claire," she said softly, "don't you think it's time to move on?" I looked at her in surprise. "This is my mom." "I know," she answered, "but Michael deserves to be happy." I turned to Dad. He stayed quiet. "Dad?" I asked. He sighed. "Maybe Vanessa is right." His words felt like cold rain. I closed the photo album without saying anything. That night, I cried into my pillow. Not because Dad had remarried, but because, for the first time in my life, it felt like my memories of Mom were becoming a problem. I didn't know it then. That was only the beginning. Soon, Dad would ask me to make a choice I never thought a father could ask his own daughter to make. And no matter what I chose, I was going to lose him. After that night, I stopped bringing out Mom's photo album. I kept it in my bedroom closet, under a box of old school books. Sometimes I looked at it alone. It was the only place where Mom still smiled at me. Life in our house slowly changed. Vanessa never shouted at me. She never hit me. She was much smarter than that. She smiled in front of Dad. But when we were alone, her smile disappeared. One morning, I came downstairs for breakfast. Only 2 plates were on the table. "Dad already left for work," Vanessa said. I looked at the clock. Dad never left without saying goodbye to me. "Did he ask for me?" She shook her head. "He didn't want to wake you." That answer didn't feel right. Dad always woke me before he left. Always. The same thing happened the next day, and the day after that. Soon our morning hugs were gone. Our talks before school disappeared. Little by little, my father was becoming a stranger. One Friday afternoon, my best friend, Olivia Carter, invited me to her birthday party. "You have to come," she said. "It won't be fun without you." I smiled for the first time that week. "I'll ask my dad." That evening, Dad came home. Before I could speak, Vanessa smiled at him. "Claire has something to tell you." I looked at her, confused. Dad sat down. "What is it?" "I want to go to Olivia's birthday party tomorrow." Before Dad answered, Vanessa spoke. "Oh, I almost forgot." She looked at Dad. "I already told Claire that tomorrow we're cleaning the garage." I stared at her. "No, you didn't." She looked surprised. "I didn't?" Then she laughed softly. "I'm sorry, I thought I did." Dad nodded. "We really do need to clean the garage." I looked at him. "But Dad, I promised Olivia." He sighed. "Family comes first." I wanted to argue, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. The next day, I watched through my bedroom window as Olivia's parents picked up her friends. Everyone laughed. Everyone looked happy. I stayed home, cleaning boxes that didn't even belong to me. That night, Olivia sent me a message. "I missed you." I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't know how to explain what was happening, because I didn't understand it myself. Weeks passed. One afternoon, my English teacher handed back our essays. I had the highest score in this class. She smiled. "Excellent work, Claire." You should be proud. I couldn't wait to tell Dad. When he came home, I ran to the living room. Dad! Look! I held out my paper with a big smile. Before he could read it, Vanessa spoke from the kitchen. Michael, can you help me carry these shopping bags? Dad looked at me. Later, sweetheart. He walked away. Later never came. That paper stayed on the coffee table all night. The next morning, it was gone. No one had read it. No one had asked about it. For the first time, I felt invisible. A month later, my school announced Parent Appreciation Night. Students would receive awards. Families were invited. I was chosen to give the welcome speech. I practiced every evening. I imagined Dad sitting in the front row, smiling the way he used to. The night before the event, I reminded him, You'll be there, right? He smiled. Of course. I wouldn't miss it. I believed him. The next evening, I stood behind the stage curtain. Parents filled the room. Children laughed with their families. I searched every face. No Dad. Maybe he was late. The principal called my name. I walked onto the stage. I gave my speech. People clapped. I received my award. Still no Dad. After the ceremony ended, I waited outside the school. Almost everyone went home. The parking lot became empty. Finally, Dad's car arrived. I smiled with relief. But when he stepped out, Vanessa was with him. I'm so sorry, Dad said. We lost track of time. I looked at the shopping bags in the back seat. They had been shopping. During my award ceremony, I won, I whispered. I know, Dad said. I'm proud of you. But he hadn't even seen it. Vanessa walked over and touched my shoulder. There will be other awards. Her voice sounded gentle, but her words cut deep. On the drive home, nobody spoke. I looked out the window and watched the city lights pass by. For the first time, I wondered if I still had a place in my own family. I kept asking myself one question. When did my father's promises become so easy to break? I didn't know the answer. But I was about to discover something even more painful. Soon, I would hear a conversation that was never meant for my ears. And after that night, nothing between my father and me would ever be the same. A few days after Parent Appreciation Night, I came home early from school. The house was quiet. I put my backpack by the front door and walked toward the kitchen. Then I heard voices. Dad and Vanessa were in the dining room. I wasn't trying to listen, but then I heard my name. Claire still isn't accepting our new life, Vanessa said. Dad sounded tired. She's trying. Vanessa laughed quietly. No, Michael. She's keeping the past alive. Every time she talks about your first wife, you become sad again. There was a long silence. Then she said something that made my heart stop. As long as Claire lives here, we'll never have a real family. I waited for Dad to disagree. I waited for him to defend me. Instead, he whispered, I know. Tears filled my eyes. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. I quietly walked back outside before they saw me. I sat on the front steps for almost an hour. I kept asking myself the same question. Did my father really believe I was standing in the way of his happiness? That evening, I acted as if nothing had happened. I smiled. I ate dinner. I even thanked Vanessa for the food. Inside, my heart was breaking. A week later, Dad knocked on my bedroom door. "Can we talk?" I nodded. He sat on the edge of my bed. He looked nervous. "I've been thinking." I already knew. "I think it would be good for you to live on campus when college starts." I stared at him. "My college is only 20 minutes away." "I know. So why would I move?" He looked down at his hands. "It will help everyone." Everyone, not me. Everyone. I finally asked the question that had been living inside my heart. "Is this what you want?" Dad didn't answer. His silence told me everything. I felt something inside me break. Not loudly, not suddenly. Just quietly, like a piece of glass falling to the floor. "I understand," I whispered. Dad looked relieved. He hugged me, but his hug felt different. It no longer felt like home. 2 months later, I packed my clothes into 2 old suitcases. Everything I owned fit inside them. Before leaving, I walked through every room. The living room no longer looked like my childhood home. Mom's pictures were gone. Her favorite chair was gone. Even the walls were painted different colors. It felt like she had never lived there. Dad carried my bags to the car. "I'll visit," he promised. "You can come home any time." I smiled politely, but deep inside, I knew this wasn't true anymore. As I got into the car, Vanessa stood at the front door. She waved. "Good luck at college, Claire." I waved back. It was easier than crying. Dad dropped me off at my dorm. He hugged me one last time. "Call me if you need anything." "I will." He drove away. I watched his car disappear around the corner. Then I went to my small dorm room, closed the door, and cried until I couldn't breathe. For the first time in my life, I was completely alone. College wasn't easy. I attended classes during the day. At night, I worked in a small coffee shop. Some days I was so tired that I studied with my eyes half closed. Money was always tight. I skipped meals to save enough for textbooks. But every time I wanted to quit, I remembered Mom's words. "You are stronger than you think." Slowly, life became better. My manager at the coffee shop, Mrs. Harper, noticed how hard I worked. "You remind me of my younger self," she said one day. When I graduated, she helped me get an interview at a marketing company. I got the job. Then another promotion. 3 years later, I became the youngest project manager in the company. I rented my own apartment, bought my first car, built a life with my own hands. Dad rarely called. Sometimes months passed without a single message. Most birthdays ended with a short text. "Happy birthday, love, Dad." Nothing more. I stopped expecting anything. One rainy Saturday afternoon, I opened my mailbox. Inside was a white envelope. There was no return address. I opened it slowly. My hands began to shake. It was a letter, not from Dad, from someone else. Someone who had lived in my old house. Someone who knew the truth about everything that had happened. As I finished reading the first page, I realized my father had never known the whole story, and the person who had destroyed our family was much closer than he ever imagined. My hands shook as I read the letter. It was from our old neighbor, Mrs. Evelyn Brooks. She had lived next door for almost 15 years. She had watched me grow up. The letter began with only one sentence. "Claire, I have stayed silent for too long." Mrs. Brooks explained that after I left for college, she often saw Vanessa talking about me with her friends. One afternoon, Mrs. Brooks was working in her garden when she heard Vanessa laughing. "I finally got what I wanted," Vanessa said. "Michael's daughter is gone. Now I have the house all to myself." Mrs. Brooks couldn't believe what she heard. She also wrote that Vanessa often hid my letters from Dad. Sometimes birthday cards I mailed never reached him. Sometimes Dad's letters to me disappeared before they were sent. Vanessa wanted us to grow farther apart. And she succeeded. Mrs. Brooks ended her letter with an apology. "I should have told your father years ago. I was afraid of causing trouble. I'm sorry, Claire." I folded the letter slowly. For years, I had blamed only Dad. Now I realized he had been manipulated. But one painful truth remained. No one forced him to stop believing in me. A father should know his own daughter. A week later, my phone rang. The screen showed a name I had not seen in months. Dad. I answered. "Hello?" For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then I heard him crying. "Claire, I'm so sorry." Mrs. Brooks had already visited him. She had shown him old messages, unopened envelopes, and even security camera videos from years before. There was no way Vanessa could deny the truth. Dad finally saw everything. He filed for divorce a month later. "I failed you," he said through his tears. "I kept choosing the wrong person." I closed my eyes. The little girl inside me wanted to run into his arms, but the woman I had become remembered every broken promise. "I needed you," I said quietly. "So many times. I needed my dad." "I know. I waited after my school award." "I know. I waited for your phone calls." "I know. I waited for you to choose me." Dad couldn't answer. His crying became louder. "I can't change the past," he whispered. "No," I replied. "You can't." A few days later, he asked if we could meet. We chose the small park where Mom used to feed birds, the same park we had visited together after her funeral. Dad looked much older than I remembered. His hair was almost completely gray. His shoulders were bent. He looked like a man carrying years of regret. When he saw me, he stood up slowly. "I'm proud of you," he said. "You built a beautiful life." I smiled gently. I had to. We walked through the park together. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, Dad stopped walking. "I don't expect forgiveness. I only hope for one chance to be your father again." I looked at the lake. The water was calm. I thought about Mom. I thought about the lonely girl who cried herself to sleep. I thought about the woman I had become. Then I turned back to Dad. "I forgive you." Tears filled his eyes. "But forgiveness doesn't erase the past." He nodded. I understand. We can't go back to who we were. I know. But I reached out and held his hand. We can decide who we become from today. For the first time in many years, Dad smiled. It wasn't a perfect ending. The lost years never came back. The birthdays, school events, and family dinners were gone forever. Some wounds leave scars that never disappear. But scars also remind us that we survived. Today, Dad and I meet every Sunday morning. Sometimes we eat pancakes. He still burns the first one. He laughs and says, "The first pancake is always for the trash." And now? I laugh too. Not because everything is the same, but because healing is possible when people finally choose honesty over pride and love over fear. If my story teaches you anything, let it be this. Never make someone compete for your love. A husband or wife may become part of your family, but your child should never have to wonder if they still belong. Because the deepest heartbreak is not losing a parent. It is watching a parent choose to lose you.